We're live. Let's see. There we go. Okay. I was having a lot of trouble getting on. So hopefully it says to you guys that I'm on. I couldn't see anybody. So if you were listening before, it didn't show that that anyone was here, but you might not be here, which is totally fine. Okay, it is live now. It was not live before, so this works out. I'm going to wait for my peeps to get here and let them know that we are up and running. All right, so today we are talking about when is it time for a new goal. And for a lot of people, goals become like these very restrictive, like ironclad contracts. And for me, I want you guys to be thinking about goals as a tool. And when a tool stops working or stops fitting into your life, we don't grip the tool harder, we swap it. And so today we're going to be talking about when is it time to change a goal and go through different scenarios, because this actually became a theme in coaching this week. And whenever there's a theme, what is this? Whenever there's a theme in coaching, it's definitely time to talk about it. So, welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast.
Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that.
Let's do it. So, if you're someone who's been hitting resistance on a goal lately, I want you to realize that most likely this is not a discipline problem. This is a information problem. And that's really important. Most people think that quitting a goal means failing at it. And today I want to separate those two things, okay? What we're going to talk about is two client stories from literally earlier this week. Both of these clients are traveling, both have the same problem. And these two clients got two very different goals. And if they execute those goals, both of those clients are going to win at those goals. So by the end of this live stream, I want you to know the difference between a goal that needs more effort versus a goal that needs to be replaced or updated. Okay. So while everyone is hopping on, I want you to drop in the chat, what's one goal that you guys are working on right now? So just throw it in there. I'd love to hear what your goals are, just one. And as you are throwing that in the chat, I'm going to talk about the subject of goal fluidity. So a goal is usually built around a specific context. Okay. So, for example, a lot of the goals that we create, the Mindset of Matter, are based on people's normal lives. So, them being in their normal home, their kitchen, in their normal schedule, and having their normal, usual level of stress, right? And the goals that we build goals every 4 weeks in our program. And in my goal setting sheet, I do ask, like, if life gets lifey, what is an alternative to this goal? So a lot of what we're talking about today is already baked into my goal setting uh, forms that I have in my program. But if you're someone who's not coaching, this is something to recognize. When you're initially setting those goals, you are usually setting them around your normal life. But if we change the context of your life, that goal doesn't fit anymore. But what ends up happening is you do not hit the goal, and this is usually where guilt, like a sense of guilt or shame or failure, comes in. And the reason why is you're grading yourself against a goal that was built for a different version of you, of your life, or of your week. So if that's true, then you're actually not failing at the goal. You're just holding yourself to the wrong goal. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Oh, I gotta pull up the chat. All right. If you haven't realized with working with me or following me, the path to any sort of health goal needs to be flexible and adaptable. And And not just the path, but the goal should also be flexible as well, because there are many pathways that we can use to get to a goal, but also a goal can look different ways. And if we're changing a goal, we're not quitting at a goal, we're just adjusting it. Okay. So a lot of people think this fluidity around goals means they're flaky or they're abandoning their goals or they're giving themselves an excuse. I want you to update that thinking, right? When a situation changes or when the goal continues to produce friction in your progress, that's something that you need to pay attention to. That's a difference. That's a communication, okay? So, I want you to think about the last time you felt guilty about not hitting your goal. Like what happened? Was your kid sick? Were you on vacation? Was there a work deadline? Whatever it is, I want you to throw it in the chat. When was the last time you felt guilty because you weren't able to execute a goal? And then I want you to think about, was the context of my life different? Okay. The purpose of a goal is it for it to serve you in your life as it is, not for you to serve the goal. So I'm going to give you two examples of this, and I hope this is helpful. See, I have client A, and she is traveling this coming week. At home, her goal is to track her food accurately in MyFitnessPal. On the road, though, because accurate tracking is not realistic. We have restaurant portions, we have unknown ingredients, we have somebody else making our food, right? That is not a realistic goal. However, an old goal or old mindset around goals says if your goal has to stay tracking accurately, every imperfect entry feels like you failed. Guilt starts to set in every single day of your trip. You're not enjoying your trip. And this is where people will just stop tracking entirely. Then this person might struggle getting back to tracking and tracking accurately when they get home. I see this happen over and over and over again. The new goal for us and what we said in our coaching was to track anyway. Track anyway, get as close to accurate as you can. You don't have a food scale, so we've got to be okay with eyeballing. And the goal then changes from tracking accuracy to the motion of tracking. So this client ends up protecting the habit of tracking, not the data. Okay. And this is why it works. Guilt is attached to the old goal, accuracy, tracking everything, putting it on the scale. But because that's unrealistic, once the goal officially changes to consistency, there's nothing to feel bad about when she's not accurate. The goal is different. And I tell them, this is the new goal. I have to say that to them because oftentimes they don't register, right? They still think that they're trying to track accurately. And then when they come back, I'm like, no, remember, our goal is to not track accurately, right? Our goal is just to keep the momentum. Momentum here is the asset, okay? So when she gets back home, she never stopped doing anything, right? There's no restart. All she has to do is tighten the accuracy back up when she's back in her place. Does that make sense, guys? I hope that makes sense to you. So here's something to think about, and you can put this in the chat. And my question to you is, like, when you travel, what happens with your tracking? Type 1 is you keep tracking loosely, kind of like this client. Type 2, so 1 is I keep tracking loosely. 2 is if I stop tracking completely. And 3 is obviously I've never tracked, right? So for this particular client, we didn't lower the bar on her. We just moved the bar, right? And we moved it to where her life is right now this week. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I think it's important to talk about that flexibility, right? So that is client A. Client B, okay, also traveling. This client is in a very similar situation. Now, these people are not going to the same place. Both do have Airbnbs, but for this client, her goal is different. This client is not tracking at all. Instead, we chose together to finish every meal between a 6.5 and a 7.5 on the fullness scale. So, for those who don't understand, just a brief overview of the fullness scale is 1 to 10, right? 1 is starving, 10 is stuffed, right? So, a 6.5 to a 7.5, we always give a range. There is no perfect here. Is a comfortable, not heavy feeling where she can eat, get up, and go for a walk. Okay. The old goal story would be track everything, track accurately. And she really has a hard time with that. She's so goal oriented that when she doesn't hit the goal, she blames herself and gets really hard on herself. So I said, that is no longer our goal. Don't even think about that goal. That goal doesn't exist in this context. Our goal is to check in and listen to your body, right? And so the real goal is not a break from tracking. She's actually practicing a skill every single meal, and it's arguably a harder skill. This is a more advanced skill of listening to your hunger cues, checking in mid-meal, and stopping at satisfied. This is a more intense goal. And again, because the goal has changed, we say there is no guilt about not logging because logging isn't the goal anymore. I know I'm being repetitive. The goal is awareness, and she can hit that awareness at a restaurant, at a buffet, at a party. This comes with her anywhere. Both clients really can go with them anywhere. So we're looking at the two side by side, right? Same type of situation, same week, but two totally different goals. And both of these goals are correct. Both goals depend on the person's unique circumstances, where they are in this journey, and what skills serve them right now. That is so important because client A is newer to my program. Client B has been with me literally for 4.5 years. Now, she and I really work. I mean, her life has changed significantly. So she's a lifer because her life changes significantly, right? We've gone through a lot together. So if we're looking at the way that I changed these goals for this client, the first one, we protected a habit, okay? The doing of a habit. The second one was ready to protect trusting her body. And there's fluidity in those goals. And here's the thing. Client B, because she's kind of further along, can choose both options, right? She can choose both options. And really what I want you guys to understand in this is there's no universal right answer. There's the right answer for you this week, this vacation, this shift. Okay. So checking the chat, M says she will not track when she's on vacation. Totally fine. That's totally an option. I go back and forth with it. Like I'll be in Europe for 10 days. So there'll probably be some tracking in situations where I can track, but there'll also be some intuitive eating. So I'm actually a mix of both. So we talked about, what fluidity looks like with goals and how to be fluid when life changes. But I also want to talk about when life is normal and the goal still isn't working. One of the things I see most here is when a client is in a calorie deficit, but the scale is not moving. Or when a client is lifting consistently, but not seeing progress in either their lifts or their body composition. So, what do we do then, right? What do we do when we've hit a plateau? So, as I'm talking about this, I want you guys to think about what have you done, right? Where has your brain gone when you're doing everything seamlessly right, but you're not seeing the progress towards that goal? What does your brain say? Kind of what is the pattern that happens? So I want to walk you guys through what questions to ask yourself. When we get critical of ourselves, we need to get curious. I say that 10,000 times a week, right? A stalled goal is data. It is data for us. It is not a verdict. It is not a character flaw. It's not a pass fail. It's stall. It's stalling. It's saying something is creating a barrier here. And before we change anything and make like a knee jerk reaction, we need to investigate. We need to get curious. So I want to take you through some questions. Number one is the input actually what we think it is? Are we drifting off on weekends when it comes to movement or tracking? Are we not taking into consideration bites, licks, tastes, sips? Right? Are those not getting logged? Are we eyeballing portions? Right? And when we're asking you to kind of audit this, it's not to shame you, it's just to be honest, because sometimes a deficit isn't a deficit. I went through this with a couple clients a few weeks ago whose weight has actually gone up. And I said, I did the math. Now I put in all the data, and it turned out that this client was eating in about a 150 calorie surplus over this elongated period of time, which then caused weight gain over the elongated period of time. And we've been working on other things other than the weight, but I really wanted to give them like a concrete number. And I said, that's an easy fix. That's the good news. 150 calories is an easy fix. We just need to tighten those portions up a little bit, right? And we'll at least stop the weight gain. Then, as the weight gain stops, we tighten the portions up some more, and then we move on to a deficit. The next audit is the scale the right measuring stick right now? And like for someone in maintenance, probably not the best measuring stick. Now, is it helpful for us in maintenance? Absolutely. But say you're just in a really stressed part of your life, that can cause water retention, sodium increasing in your body because you're just eating maybe not great foods. Maybe you're obviously stressed out. Maybe you're in your cycle, whatever it is, right? The scale, for whatever reason, can hide actual progress if we're not patient enough. So if you're in a stressful part of life, or you're just in a situation where the scale is not the best measuring stick, or you're doing everything right and the scale's not moving, maybe that you just need to be patient with. The former, it's maybe we look at other forms of measurement, okay? And that brings me to like, how is my body adapted? For some of you, not people who work with me coaching, because I'm always updating this, when you put yourself in a calorie deficit, you should be changing and updating those macros and calories probably every 5 pounds that you lose. Because 3 months ago, where you were eating at was maintenance, right? Or I'm sorry, 3 months ago, where you were eating was a deficit, might now be maintenance because you're in a smaller body. So bodies will adjust to losing weight, and that smaller body requires less energy at rest. So you need to adjust your calories every, I'd say, 5 pounds that you lose. That's what I tend to do with my clients. Okay. And that's really just your biology. That's how your body works. So if you're someone who is not seeing results, like you saw results and then it stopped, go back and adjust the calories accordingly. Or what I prefer you to instead is maybe increase your movement, adding on another like 45-minute workout or something like that, or 3,000 more steps. The next audit question is your timeline realistic? And this is the one I see with clients who are trying to change their like body comp from lifting. Strength and body composition changes take months to scale, not weeks. Multiple months. Okay. I've been doing this for 20 years. So the goal might be perfectly fine, but your expectation and the timing of that goal needs to be revisited and revised. Okay. So there you go. Those are the audits. Those are the questions I want you to ask yourself. Then you have 3 moves from there. Do we adjust the path, right? Do we keep the same goal, but maybe a different route to get there, right? Change the calories, change the programming, change your sleep schedule. Number 2 is, do we adjust the metric? So if the weight is not what we need to be measuring this season, maybe things like measurements or photos or strength numbers in the gym, your energy level on a daily basis, how your clothes fit, maybe that's what we need to be measuring. If you're lifting heavy and the scale is not moving or maybe even going up, but your jeans are falling off of you, that's progress, baby. That is progress. Or number 3, again, is adjust the goal itself. Sometimes maintaining through a brutal season of work or life is the win. Maintaining your weight. I tell my clients this all the time. Look, you've been through hell and you have not gained weight. And they're like, this is great. Now, do they don't love it. They'd like to lose weight, but also if we compare who they were before, that person most likely would gain weight while going through hell. So that is a win. And naming that as the goal, right, removes the guilt out of failing at fat loss, right? Because you don't actually have the capacity to be in that calorie deficit right now, and that's okay. So, for you guys who are in a plateau right now, thinking about those audit questions, thinking about the um, kind of the pathway to take, I'm curious where you're at. If there's a goal that you've plateaued at, or just you're feeling some friction, maybe because of summer, whatever that is it adjusting the path? Is it adjusting the metric to get to that path, or is it adjusting the goal itself? I'd love to hear about that in the chat. And just to remember, guys, like a plateau isn't your failure. It's not your body ignoring you. It's your body literally just saying, hey, this doesn't work right now, whether that's from an emotional standpoint, whether that's from a capacity standpoint, or a physical or a biological, physiological standpoint. And it's worth just paying attention to. Like, it's literally going to happen. So use this to your advantage. So just to come back to it, here's what I want you to take away with kind of, is it time for me to change the goal? Okay, so what to watch yourself do. So these are the signs. Big one, you feel guilt or dread around the goal more days than not. Now, I am going to Italy, or I'm going to Europe, and I've been training a lot more than I normally do because I want to look ripped. And I'm getting into dread. I'm getting into dread because I don't train this much and I don't love it. So for me, it's it's really 2 more workouts this week. It's literally me like counting them down, and 5 workouts next week. Well, 6 technically. And then I'm done. So I'm like, okay, Christina, you can do this for 8 more workouts. You're going to be okay. But the dread is setting in. Okay. Ask yourself, has my life circumstances changed? Right? Yes, that is a time where the goal should change too. If the goal didn't change, you're going to feel like you failed. If you've got travel coming up, a new job, an injury, a new season of parenting, that goal was built for a life you're not currently living in. So, yes, that would be time to change the goal. And if you've been heavily consistent and the outcome has not moved for many weeks, that's a plan, like a plan problem or a metric problem. It's obviously not an effort problem. So give yourself some grace. Like, I put in a lot of effort and something isn't right here. It's not me. I probably don't need more effort. I need to adjust and recalibrate or recalculate. I like that. And do so to get the ball moving. And sometimes, honestly, that's, like I said, increasing your steps by 1,500, or like reducing your calories by 100 if you're not eating already in a very low calorie deficit. And here's the hard one, guys. And I love this one, but the goal belongs to a past version of you. I'm going to use this example because this is something I had to tell my clients who've hit their goal weight, right? So Emily said, I just hit my goal weight, but feeling like I plateau in the gym. Okay. So when you hit your goal weight, you should reverse diet. Reverse diet for the first time feels very annoying because not annoying, it feels stressful because you're no longer someone stepping on a scale and seeing that scale come down. So in your brain, your goal is to see the scale come down, but in your actions, the goal is actually not to see the scale go down, is to maintain within a range, right? So it'll fluctuate because our bodies fluctuate. But if your behaviors are here, but your brain is the scale should come down, that's an adjustment we need to make. That is a goal that you've set in your past self. On Monday, I'm actually doing a pod on body dysmorphia after weight loss. It's a very real thing. And this goal dysmorphia can be a real thing too. So ask yourself, would I, am I, how do I want to say this? Do my behaviors match the goal, right? Are the expectations that these behaviors are going to provide or the outcome match the goal? So if the scale's not moving and we're trying to maintain, right, that's a match. And then the next question is, do my thoughts or my expectations match that? Okay. So, yeah, changing a goal on purpose is a coaching decision or a decision that you can make. Abandoning a goal out of frustration is a reaction. No, we don't want to do that. We're not doing that anymore. That's an all or nothing thing. We want the first one. We want to do this together and we want to plan ahead and show you what that fluidity looks like. So M for you, just hit my weight goal, but feeling like I plateau in the gym. Are you reverse dieting? Because if you hit your weight goal, I'm guessing you're in a calorie deficit. If you're in a calorie deficit at a certain point, your body is, when should I set a new weight goal with a new plan? I would reverse diet. I'd get you out of that deficit and I'd stay at maintenance for like 2 to 3 months and then come back into the deficit. We should not live in deficits for long periods of time. Now, 2 to 3 months might be a long time for someone, especially when they've never reverse dieted or been at maintenance. For some clients who have a lot of weight to lose, we will diet break for at least, I don't know, a month and then come back into it. It just gives the brain, it gives the body the nutrients it needs, the amount of fuel that it needs. It helps to kind of bring that metabolism slowly back up. And then when you go back into the deficit, your body's kind of, it's not fully recalibrated. We'll know if it's recalibrated if when you go into a deficit, you start losing weight. If we're not in that reverse and that maintenance period for a long enough time, when you go into the next deficit, we won't see weight loss. So your body will kind of tell us what it wants to do. But I would say reverse, build, use those calories. If you reverse, you will not feel like you plateaued in the gym. You're going to feel strong as shit. And that's great because then you build that muscle, right? And that's the goal. The goal is not to see weight loss there. See where that has to change? Then when we're ready and we look at the next 8 to 12 weeks and we say, I'm ready, I don't have a lot going on, I can go back into a deficit, we cut you, and then we repeat the process. And we do that until you get to whatever your, ideal body shape, feeling, lab, whatever that is, right? And that's the long game. But honestly, when you do it that way, it's the short game because you're not starting, stopping. You understand that this is a longer period of time. You're more consistent because you have the diet breaks. You're also metabolically in a better place because you're having those diet breaks. You're reverse dieting. You're getting stronger in the gym. That's going to increase your rest of metabolism. So weight loss will be easier once you go into weight loss. It really is the short game, but people want quick fix. So that is that. Cool. What other questions do you guys have around goals, around where you're currently at? Do you have any circumstances coming up that you want to kind of process? Like, I'm doing this and I usually track food. What would be another option for me? While you're putting that in, just remember, like our 2 different travelers, right? These people have 2 different goals. And the goal of doing those goals is to have 0 guilt, right? And that's that's what this should be about. When you're trying to be healthier, we shouldn't guilt ourselves into changing because that's not healthy. We think health is just what the scale says. I disagree. Mental health is obviously just as important as your physical health. So if your mental health is being sabotaged because of your physical health, then the goals, it's not the right goal for you, right? So cool. So waiting for that chat. Any other questions? Just some housekeeping reminders. I will not be here on. It'll be 2 weeks this month. It will be the 23rd and the 30th. So I will not be here for our live stream. So just keep that in mind. I will also put a reminder in our community, like forum, I guess you call it, on YouTube. But if you guys don't have any other questions, I hope you found this really helpful. I sure did. It's always great to have themes that come straight from our clients. And I get to share those with you, whether you're a client or whether you're just one of our followers. I will, obviously, this will be on the page if you didn't get to see everything. We had a little technical difficulties at the beginning, so I had to like jump off and jump back on. But thank you guys for being here. And I will see you next week. So we will be here next week, which is the 16th. All right, y'all. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.